Hi, welcome to day 4 of our Stuff Your Stocking. Today is all about needles, and for the last 3 days, I've been going through some of the most used items, things that people like to stock up on, like rotary blades from yesterday, maybe a new rotary cutter. Um, Today, we're going to talk about needles because needles are so important for everything that we do when it comes to sewing and embroidery. So, we have put together for you the most popular needles and we put them into packages for you. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about needles. We will be putting in a needle pocket guide for you. This is something that you can always refer back to. Now, I know there are needles for quilting, and then there's needles for leather, and there's needles for jeans. And while, yes, they have their place, most of the things that we do can be done with the needles here. So, for example, sometimes when you are free motion quilting, they suggest a quilting needle, and then you'll have an instructor that will suggest a top stitch needle. I find the top stitch needle works much better. I have very consistent results with it. I can then also use that same top stitch needle when we are doing top stitching of maybe some placemats that we turned, or top stitching on a bag, top stitching on a zipper, and things like that. I get asked a lot of times about needle sizes. So as a reminder, the lower the number is the smaller the eye, and then the higher number is going to be the larger the eye. So for example, on a Microtex needle, you have a 70-10, an 80-12, 90-14. So that needle size is going to get a little bit bigger and it will handle a thicker fabric and things like that. Something that a lot of people also don't know about Schmetz needles, which are my all-time favorite needles. I've been using Schmetz needles forever. I have tried everything, and I find that I never have issues. So one thing when you look in the guide that we're going to send you, inside of a needle on your package, you're going to notice that your needles are going to have some colors on there. They'll have a couple colors on there. And then on the outside of the box, it'll also tell you what size it is. But if you ever do what I do and take a needle out of a machine and don't necessarily put it back into its proper box, you can always go back and look at the color that is at the top of the needle, and you'll then know what kind of needle it is. And if you're not sure what color goes with what, you can just look right in your guide. So we're going to talk about top stitch, universal, microtex, and embroidery. So with your regular sewing, universal is going to be the needle that you're going to use. And once again, you're going to use a 70, excuse me, an 80-12, a 90-14, and a 116. So when you get into maybe sewing some flannel or some minky, you're going to want to use that thicker needle. So a universal needle has a slight ballpoint on it. So if you ever look at a stitch and it looks like it just kind of has a little angle as it goes, that is a universal needle. So I use a universal needle when I'm doing a lot of bag sewing and things like that. And then I'll switch out to a top stitch needle when I need to. So those are for your universal needles. The Microtex needles are going to be sizes 70-10, 80-12, and 90-14. Those are the most popular. Now, I use 70-10 on a daily basis with Aurifil. That is my go-to needle. However, when I'm doing things that, once again, have multiple layers, sometimes I need just a little bit bigger of a needle so that when it makes that hole, when it pierces the fabric, it is making just a little bit of a larger hole. You'll have some less shredding. So there's a Microtex pack on there for you also. So top stitch needles, 80-12, 90-14, and 116. I typically use the 90-14 and then the 116. I still use the 80-12s on some items, but once again, these are the most popular needle sizes. So I use these for any free motion quilting. Anytime I'm top stitching a binding, top stitching a bag. These are going to be your needles that you'll want to. Once again, when you're doing that final assembly and you've got multiple layers, that 100 size, the size 116 is definitely the go-to. With embroidery, the numbers change just a little bit. So they end with a 14 and 11. So 75-11 and then the 90-14. So those are going to be the two most common embroidery size needles. I use the 7511. I want to say for 60 to 70% of what I do. Now, if I'm using a specialty thread or I am maybe embroidering on denim or some things that are thicker and I'm having a thread shredding issue, I will switch my needle to a 9014. That is going to make a larger hole so when the needle is going down into the machine, into the fabric and it's coming back up, it's made a larger hole than the thread doesn't have anything to stick on. So all of the needles, these are the most common size. Last year, this was one of the best selling things that we did because everybody loves to stock up and have needles always on hand. So we've put together on the day 4 under the stuff you're stocking, we have the embroidery and the 7511. They are 3 packs. We have the 9014s in 3 packs. Then we have your top stitch, which is going to have the 1 in 8012, 9014, and 116. Your microtex are going to be 1 each of 7010, 8012, and 9014. And then your regular all-purpose universal needle is going to be 1 each of 8012, 9014, and 116. Each of the packages is $11.98, so it's a great time to stock up. You're getting a lot of needles. I change my needles regularly. It will solve so many problems that people don't realize. So have a great day. Remember to go back and check out day 1, 2, and 3, and we will see you tomorrow for day 5 of Stuff Your Stocking.